So where did I get into again, kurama? With notes of despair and hopelessness in my voice, I asked my furry friend. Be strong, Naru. You got into one of the parallel worlds. The fox tried to calm me down. Yes, it was the same nine-tailed demon. Where to? To say that I was in shock is to say nothing. I'll tell you more, your hubby got with you. With regret, as if this is the worst thing that could happen in the world, Kurama said. And then he added, but don't be afraid, but your family is still alive here. What? I could only squeeze out of myself. Meanwhile, he continued to mock. And I had no doubt that he was mocking me. It hurt too much, the voice was snide. Yes, and also, here you are perceived only as a gray mouse. Then this demon continued to anger me. Yeah, that's what I got called. But we'll show them, won't we, Kurama? And it all started with what? It's just that my restless carcass couldn't sit still again. Despite the fact that I've been Mistress Uchiha for 5 years, I'm still a true Uzumaki at heart. So this time, as soon as I had the opportunity, I left for the first difficult mission. Naturally taking Sasuke with him. So, the mission was that we needed to deal with another bandit group. Nothing complicated, you say? I thought so too, until in the midst of the battle one of their gang activated an unknown technique. The last thing I remembered was a small blue funnel, which apparently dragged us here, and here is the result: a 25-year-old war heroine found herself back in the body of a child. A weak, unhappy child who wished to die, unable to withstand such a fate. But I, not her. Wait, the new Naruto Uzumaki will still show what it's worth. Databayo, coming out of the subconscious, the first thing I thought about was Sasuke. How is he? Is nothing wrong? What will become of your Uchiha? And seeing that I was even more tense, the fox hurried to calm me down. Yes, he's alive, he's alive. I can feel his chakra nearby. Only now, what? I didn't like his hesitation. I really didn't like it. And as it turned out, not in vain. What do you think he'll do when he wakes up and doesn't see you around? But there are a lot of other Uchi around, long extinct in your world? Damn it! I cursed to myself, just imagining this picture. Yes, he won't leave a living place in the quarter, and I don't care what the child is, he has the power with him. As I have, by the way. Only here, what should Ku do? I can't run to the Uchi quarter, they won't understand. The academy, Naruto. The fox explained as if to a child. Lamenting that his Jinchuriki is so stupid. But surely the academy. Hitting myself on the forehead, I thought. And without wasting any more time, I ran to get ready. When I opened the closet, I was unpleasantly surprised. The wardrobe of the local Naru consisted exclusively of black and gray things. But I was not upset, and after a couple of minutes of digging a little in the depths of the closet, I was able to find a more or less decent outfit. It consisted of a blue short kimono, and white half shorts. The set included white wristbands with blue edging. It looked harmoniously with the eyes, and created the a la Uchiha style. On my feet, I put on standard shinobi sandals, blue to match the color of the kimono. My whole appearance screamed, I belong to Uchiha. Sasuke should like it. Speaking of which. After combing my hair and quickly making 2 familiar ponytails, I immediately hurried to the academy. Opening the door to the auditorium with a kick, I immediately attracted everyone's attention. Dozens of curious glances crossed on my humble person. But it didn't matter to me anymore, because I finally saw him. Sasuke, who was sitting as once surrounded by female fans, and literally devoured me with his eyes. This picture involuntarily caused an attack of pleasant nostalgia. After all, our first kiss happened next. Remembering this, I smiled gently and looked into his eyes and realized that Sasuke remembered it too. Slyly squinting, I decided to play a little. Coming closer, and pushing aside the crowd of fans, I jumped on the desk, leaning closer to him, deciding to repeat our first kiss. At this prank, Sasuke only raised his eyebrows ironically, but did not pull away. On the contrary, after looking me all over, from head to toe, and especially my new outfit, he chuckled questioningly, "HH?" As if asking, "Is this for me?" "Of course for you. For whom else?" He only nodded in satisfaction at my answer. And then a dangerous light flashed in his eyes. Inviting, and the phrase, "Do you want to play?" shines in his eyes. I'm always in favor, you know the topic. Nothing more was needed. The next second I felt that fateful push in the back and literally ran into Sasuke. Only now, it wasn't an innocent touch of lips like in the past. This time, as soon as our lips touched, Sasuke immediately pulled me closer to him, sitting me on his knees and deepening the kiss. To which I immediately responded, opening my mouth pliably and responding with no less passion. When there was not enough air, he reluctantly pulled away from his lips and began to cover my face with light kisses. But even this was not enough for him, and soon he went down on his neck, leaving wet traces of quick kisses, and slightly biting the skin. I closed my eyes with pleasure and, unable to restrain myself, moaned loudly, not even paying attention to the stunned gaze of the crowd. It no longer mattered to me that people were looking at us. What is it? I was ready to give myself to him here and now. This situation turned me on so much. And apparently not me alone. Through the layer of trousers, I clearly felt something hard pressing against my lower back. After fidgeting a little on the spot and causing a muffled groan from Sasuke by this action, I began to unbutton his shirt. He responded to my actions, only mumbled approvingly and again fell to my lips in such a welcome kiss. I don't know how it would have ended, but then through my own moans I heard a rather loud knock. Sasuke and I, without speaking together, immediately jumped away from each other, carefully scanning the situation around. After looking around the audience, I immediately relaxed when I saw the sound source itself. As it turned out, it was Sakura and Ino who fainted together from what they saw. About the rest, I think it's not worth talking about. Well, what can I say? Shock, it's our way. Quickly putting myself in order, as if nothing had happened, and it wasn't Sasuke and I who had just almost slept together, stared at the door with the same indifference. And just in time, because a second later the door to the auditorium opened, and our good old Iruka-sensei entered the room. He looked around the classroom carefully. And quickly dispersing the crowd of ninjas frozen around our desk to their places, he silently started the lesson. Wondering to myself, what happened here? They sit like they've got water in their mouths. Naive, Sasuke and I gave each other a high five under the desk. The prank was a success. And this is just the beginning. The further lesson passed without incident. Well, as a lesson, it turned out to be the day of distribution. Iruka read out the lists of teams, under the oppressive silence, still shocked ninjas. At the first command, my husband and I exchanged glances, and I indicated with signs that it would not hurt for us to talk. Correctly understanding my hint, he immediately imperceptibly activated the Sharingan, and we got into my subconscious. By the way, it hasn't changed a bit. Still the same sewer, in the center of which the nine-tailed fox sat proudly. Well, Kurama, can you tell me in more detail now where we got into? I sang in a sweet voice. Under my not good look, the fox immediately deflated, but what can I say when I'm in such a state? Even Sasuke is in a hurry to get somewhere far away. Nobody wants to get hit on the head with a chakra powder frying pan. Here it is, the legacy of Kachan, from my memories, where I am chasing Sasuke around Konoha, along with a mini version of Ku on my shoulders, I was brought out by the voice of that very fox, Naruto. Well, you know, how should I tell you, but having also received a threatening look from Sasuke, he closed his eyes sharply and blurted out, "In general, when I said that you were in another world, I did not specify that it was not forever, from now on." In more detail, having printed out the frying pan already mentioned by me, with the seal on my shoulder, I began to play with this, soon, murder weapon. Well, this technique that you got into, created by your father himself, for such trips. I don't know exactly how much time will pass here before you will be returned to your world. Usually it depends on the volume of the chakra that activated the technique. But the main thing is, no matter how much time passes here, because you will return at the same moment when the technique was just activated, here, exactly everything. I asked in an unctuous voice, otherwise I know he will not say something again, and then sort it out for me. After receiving a convulsive nod from the fox, I turned my eyes to Sasuke, as if asking his opinion. "My love, so it's wonderful." And seeing my skeptically raised eyebrow, he came up to me and gently hugged me, explained, "Consider this a vacation. It's time for us to rest for a long time, and here it's just a gift of fate." And seeing my obvious lack of trust, he whispered conspiratorially, "We don't owe anything to anyone here. I realized from my memories that there is no war here, so how about taking out the brains of all the villagers, and our parents in particular?" Yes, it was suggested to me by that very icy Sasuke. I'll tell you a secret, the Uchiha, despite all their outward coldness and aloof reputation, are still those jokers. True, they can be so emotional only in the family circle. Tested by me personally, for a good 5 years as Mrs. Uchiha and nothing else. And what kind of owners they are, I think it's not worth talking about. And there have been legends about their love for a long time. But that's not the point now. After thinking a little about his suggestions, I replied, And why not? And already turning around to kiss my brilliant husband, I clung to one word, "And what did the family not please you with?" "Naruto. You haven't received the memories of this body yet, have you?" After receiving my negative answer, he replied cautiously, "Then look," and I was flooded with memories. Well, what can I say? Everything is as Kurama said before, the girl was a gray mouse. Her family not only despised her, but simply disliked her. The older brother was catastrophically afraid, although he regretted it. Therefore, at the age of 10, the girl simply could not stand such a family attitude to herself and decided to leave home. So now I will live in proud solitude, not counting my husband. But it's even good. After viewing all the memories, I said only one thing, that's it, the question about my family has disappeared. But Sasuke, what do you have? How can I tell you? POV Sasuke, from the very morning I had a bad feeling, and as it turned out later for good reason, and while everything seemed to start so well, think about it, my restless wife wanted to take a mission, so nothing complicated like. Moreover, this was supposed to be the last mission for about 5 years. In the end, the clan also needs to be revived, but now it's not about that. I don't know how it happened that the usual mission to catch another gangster group turned into this. Well, in the end, here's what came out of it. Now I woke up somewhere, tied to a chair, and the last thing I remember is a blue funnel that swallowed up my Naruto, and then me. But they didn't let me think about this situation for a long time. Footsteps were heard near the door, and someone's unfamiliar voices. "We won't get anything from him anymore." Fugaku clearly said that he doesn't care. Therefore, I propose to kill quietly, while his restless brother is not aware. Quiet you. We've already reached it. Indeed, after a few seconds, the door opened, revealing 2 men in front of me. One was a tall brunette, with short black hair, and an oily smile, and the second was the opposite of the first, short, well-fed, with a sullen harem, as my Naruto liked to say. Where are you? I hope you're okay, but the main thing that I didn't pay attention to at first was the embroidered coat of arms on Yukata's chest. My coat of arms. It can't be that these losers and Uchiha. I was the last of the clan. So, where did this take me? And as if in response to my thoughts, memories began to appear in my head, a little boy despised by his father for weakness. After all, out of the whole clan, only his Sharingan has not awakened. Constant reproaches in his direction soon did their job, and he gradually distanced himself from the whole family. Even the elder brother, because of his employment in the service of the ANBU, could not do anything. And as a result, a downtrodden and offended by the whole world kid who was completely disappointed in life. Then the abduction of his clansmen, a blow to the chest and darkness. That's how he ended up in this body. That I think it's clear to a fool that this is not his world. And Sasuke was never a fool. Well, at least the power remained with him, and the seals didn't feel like they disappeared anywhere. And the only thing that worried him at the moment was not the clan, not the family resurrected by a miracle, and even the fact that he was being held hostage here did not worry him more than his Naruto. A blonde girl flashed in my memories, but unfortunately the former Sasuke never communicated with her. Yes, this is understandable, as he understood, and the local Naruto had problems with his family. But quickly discarding unnecessary memories now, he tried to scan the area through the marriage seal in search of a single chakra. If only she was alive. Mentally pleaded Sasuke. After all, Naruto was more than a wife to Sasuke. She was everything. The meaning of his existence, his anchor that does not allow him to plunge into darkness. His love. True love for Uchiha. And, what is it? As if hearing his prayers, a familiar force flashed nearby. Only his wife could have such a chakra. Over the years, he had learned to distinguish her from thousands of others. And that means she's here. His Naruto is with him. And by the stable circulation of the chakra, it became clear that everything was fine with her. Therefore, exhaling with relief, I finally paid attention to my unsuccessful kidnappers. As it turned out, they were still arguing about who would kill me. What idiots, it's time to stop. I already said in a voice, activating my Sharingan. I think even 3 tomos are enough here. It's not good to use your Rinnegan on scum that you are this. Shut up quickly. Well, I'm telling you, idiots, I abruptly explode from the spot, breaking the bonds that bind me, and at the same second they create a Chidori. Oh, they've only just noticed my eyes. It's late guys, it's late. I backhand one with a blow of 1,000 birds, punching his chest. Yes, it's certainly not Raikiri, but after that he won't get up. Therefore, I throw his body out, and proceed to the second. The tall one was smarter than his partner, because he tried to run away. But unfortunately, my kunai goes straight to the heart. Wiping my hands, I leave the room with a calm soul. My conscience has not been gnawing at me about the murders for a long time. After all, I haven't been a child for a long time. And such scum, the only way to put in place. After all, if you think about it, they killed the previous Sasuke without regret. And even so, I was able to take revenge on them for his death. While thinking, I didn't even notice that a couple more strong chakra sources were approaching here. Getting ready to defend myself, I stood in the most comfortable position with my back to the wall, and printed out my katana from the seal on my shoulder, reminding myself again later to thank Naruto for her foresight. But as it turned out, there was no need to defend myself, because a squad of Konoha police, led by cousin Shursui, burst into the corridor where I was standing. After taking a look at the situation around him, he stopped looking at my eyes. I don't know what he saw there, because I managed to deactivate the Sharingan, but fortunately he didn't say anything. Silently nodding to me to leave, he hurried out of the room himself. In such silence we made the whole way back to Konoha. As I thought, we were not far from the village, because after 10 minutes the whole company entered the clan territory. There our group split up, and only Shisui went further with me. Now the house appeared, and on the threshold stood the cold as always father. After giving me a contemptuous look, he silently nodded to Shisui, and motioned for us to follow him. As it turned out, we came to Tasan's office. That's when it started, Shisui, report. It wasn't my father who asked briefly and to the point, no. The head of the Uchiha clan stood in front of me. 2 of our people were killed. And seeing the raised eyebrow, he added, not us. When they arrived, they were already dead. Okay, you can go. He waved his hand at the door, and in the same second Shisui disappeared. Then my father looked at me for the first time during the conversation. And his gaze expressed nothing but contempt and pity. Do you expect me to believe that you killed them? I don't know what he expected me to say, but clearly not this. I don't care if you believe it or not, I replied dispassionately as always. How you talk to your father. It's enough that you're constantly shaming our clan. But this was the last straw. You let some small fry grab you. And even then, you didn't awaken your Sharingan. Therefore, there is only one thing left for me. With a heavy sigh, he finished in an official tone, Sasuke Uchiha, for your misdeeds, I deprive you of the title of the youngest heir of the Uchiha clan. From now on, you will live outside the clan quarter, and you will have nothing to do with the main Uchiha family. Now get lost. You'll pick up your things after the academy, then you'll get compensation. After all that was said, he began to look at me carefully. Were you waiting for my reaction? Or did he want me to beg him to change his mind? But take a bite. Anyway, my old family is long dead, but the new one. I think Naruto will only be happy to be able to live together again. Yeah, I remember there were times when we shocked the people so much. Well, who's to blame that Sasuke or I always want to be at the wrong time? Well, they're on the roof of the residence, for example, or in broad daylight in the locker room of the store. Where we just didn't have, probably my eyes betrayed all my thoughts, because my husband somehow obscenely smiled and involved me in a passionate kiss. Hey you. Stop making a scene here. The fox, already forgotten by us, growled discontentedly. Get out of here, perverts. What's your name there for about 5 minutes, regretfully tearing myself away from such tempting lips now, I just sighed heavily. After all, Kurama is right, there will be more time. You're just that. Don't forget that your bodies are now 13. And when he saw our plaintive little pug, he explained, the bodies have not yet fully formed. Of course, I will fix everything, but it will take at least a month. Although, I prompted. After all, even if there is at least a tiny chance to recover faster, I will try to take advantage of it. And it's definitely not about intimacy with Sasuke. Not at all, although, if you used Tsukuyomi Sasuke, then I think 2 or 3 dozen sessions of hard training should be enough. My favorite fox appreciated the idea. Well, what about me? All that remained was to nod in agreement. Then that's it. Get out already, otherwise you really are already being called. Sasuke nodded goodbye to the fox, and once again briefly kissed me and disappeared. Following my husband's actions, I also hurried to disappear. But before I finally dissolved from the subconscious, I heard such a snide voice of Naruto. Do you remember that Tsukuyomi can be used not only for training? When he saw my shocked face, he laughed contentedly and winked at me goodbye and threw me back into reality. And he calls us perverts. That's exactly a demon. I still had time to think before opening my eyes, and there's nothing like that in the classroom, deafening silence. And everyone looks at me strangely. What are they doing? I whispered to my husband sitting next to me and the one who also sits there and looks at me like the others, laughing quietly. When he saw that I was getting angry, he deigned to explain to me, "You said about perverts out loud." At the same time, it was at the moment when Irika was addressing you, and... Excuse me? I already addressed Sensei in a voice, while giving my face an expression of true remorse and smiling as innocently as possible. Sasuke couldn't stand such actions of mine and laughed out loud, which caused others to be even more shocked. After all, to Uchiha, and laughed. It seems his fans are getting ready to faint again. After briefly exchanging glances, my husband and I laughed together without hiding. Well, really, these faces are something. Well, never mind, get used to it. After all, the Uchi family will not bring you to this. After we had had enough of laughing, we finally deigned to pay attention to the class. As it turned out, most have already left to get acquainted with their teams. And only we, the newly minted team number 7, as in the past, remained waiting for our sensei. Well, how to wait, while Sakura was trying to burn me with her eyes. It doesn't reach her that Sasuke is mine. So, in the meantime, my husband and I decided to follow the advice of the fox, and train in Tsukuyomi. And it's not what you thought. Quite a serious training for the development of chakra channels. And if you remember, in reality, a minute passes, which is equivalent to 3 days in Tsukuyomi. Therefore, it is not surprising that before the arrival of Kakashi-sensei, we were tired, but very happy, and here, by the way, is Jonin himself. He appeared as usual, less than 6 months later, as he was already standing on the threshold of the audience, examining us with his frown. Has not changed at all, that in our world is still the same Hatake. A tall silver-haired man, in the standard Konoha ninja uniform, with a notorious mask that covered most of his face, and a Sharingan now covered with a leaf protector. The other eye was at the moment tenaciously examining the situation. Sliding a disinterested glance at Sakura, he stared at us in surprise. Well, yes, he has something to be surprised about. After all, such a picture appeared before him, his new student, as he knew, the quiet and modest daughter of his teacher, all red and panting, and what did you want, after 2 Tsukuyomi, but certainly happy now literally collapsed on no less red and contented Sasuke, by the way, who was considered the coldest guy of the academy. Yes. That's the team I got. A lot of problems are waiting for me. Kakashi thought at that moment. And oh, how right he was then. I'm waiting for you on the roof, we'll meet there. Our newly minted sensei told us, and with a loud poof, he disappeared. Sakura immediately ran to the exit, after casting a last loving glance at Sasuke. But I was greatly outraged by sensei's behavior, which I immediately hurried to voice. I didn't even bother to come myself. Show off. And under Sasuke's approving grunt, she continued, Sasuke, I literally purred my husband's name. It's not surprising that he was wary, because he knows my intonation. I always dragged him into another adventure like that. And I must say very successfully involved. Well, what can you do if he can't resist my plaintive little dog, and agrees to literally everything? And now, after 2 minutes of plaintive eyes, he still gave up okay. Spit it out, let's make a spectacular appearance too, And a questioning raised eyebrow. If from the Uchikovsky translation, it means, have you already figured out how? Of course I did. Who do you think I am? Topic. Dobe, the guy exhaled wearily, but still humbly bowed his head, having thought of nothing better. I immediately jumped into Sasuke's arms, wrapping my arms around his neck. He was not at a loss for such an outburst of mine. After all, he has known me for years, and only allowed himself to roll his eyes for a second, but he took me in his arms, so I was not indignant. Come on. I commanded happily, getting comfortable, resigned to his fate, in the form of me, he activated the Mangekyo Sharingan, and to my questioning look, he answered, "You didn't think we were going to take the stairs, did you?" Playfully played with his eyebrows, Sasuke. Apparently, he also wanted to play a little. And as a confirmation, a funnel began to appear in the middle of the room. At this behavior of my husband, I just laughed. But hugging him tighter, she said, "Go ahead already, you show off." Sasuke rolled his eyes in response. And under our friendly laughter he stepped into the funnel. The roof, meanwhile, had its own atmosphere. The silence was broken only by the quiet rustle of turning pages. This Hatake was standing, and reading his vulgar book, waiting for his students. And by the way, the first one arrived. Sakura literally flew onto the roof, breathing heavily. Yes. This one was walking up the stairs, the man thought, a little disappointed. Although, what else could I expect from a clanless, albeit talented girl? But where are the others? As if echoing his thoughts, the sun began to close with clouds. Lightning struck the roof near him, and a funnel began to form at the sight of the impact. Jonin immediately became defensive, instinctively pushing the girl behind his back. It won't do any good now anyway. But as it turned out, he was worried in vain. After all, the next minute someone's ringing laughter was heard, and his previously mentioned students literally fell out of the funnel. And how they fell out. Sasuke from the Uchiha clan, held in his arms, as if for granted, the daughter of his teacher Naruto. Meanwhile, she was sitting proudly on his arms, wrapping her arms around his neck. From such a picture, Hatake fell into a precipitate. But the Sakura campaign will have to be pumped out at all. Coming out of the funnel, Sasuke and I first looked around. So that after a few seconds, you don't have to laugh again. Well, really, you should have seen their faces. Kakashi-sensei stood with kunai at the ready, and stared at us with bulging eyes. I bet he opened his mouth under the mask, but Sakura didn't have a mask, and just a fish girl appeared in front of us. So open and close your mouth. Oh. I can't. Half a kurama for the camera, but surprisingly Sensei recovered quickly. Well, what can I say, it can be seen that Jounin. After all, a second later, an already assembled ninja appeared before us. After taking one more careful look at us, he began, "Well, let's get acquainted. I'll give an example. My name is Hatake Kakashi, what I love and don't love doesn't concern you. You are not interested in my tastes. And my dream, you will not understand. Now you go ahead." Sensei pointed at Sakura. Very informative. I shared my impressions with Sasuke. A laconic answer was given. My husband and I did not hide our whispering from Sensei, but he did not say anything. But meanwhile Sakura, not paying attention to anything, introduced herself. "My name is Haruno Sakura. What I love, more precisely, whom I love." At the same time, she cast a loving glance at Sasuke. "And I don't like Naruto, everything is clear with this one," Kakashi muttered to himself, but of course we heard him, which pretty much lifted our spirits. But he continued in the meantime, "Now let's you." A nod to Sasuke. "My name is Uchiha Sasuke. I don't like a lot of things. I don't like it even more. And I only love my Naruto. My dream, make her happy." From these words of my beloved, I just melted. Well, I couldn't resist kissing him lightly. Pulling away, he immediately arranged his hands possessively on my waist, and cast a look of superiority at Hatake. The damn owner. But I know how to calm him down. Therefore, without waiting for her turn, she hurried to introduce herself. "My name is Uchiha Naruto." And not paying any attention to the shocked looks of the others, well, except for Sasuke, he just blossomed after my words, continued, "I like a lot of things. For example, ramen and workouts. My dream is to make a lot of friends. But I only love my husband Sasuke. And now I was already looking at Sakura with superiority. I know it's childish, but I can't help myself. Yes, I'm also quite a possessive, but seeing their incredulous looks, I exchanged glances with Sasuke, and after receiving his nod, defiantly stretched out our intertwined hands, activating the marriage seal. At the same moment, the golden pattern of the marriage tattoo spread across his arms. And not simple. This tattoo seal was put to us by grandfather Rikudo himself, even during the battle with Kaguya. However, we didn't know what it meant at that time. Well, tattoos and tattoos, strength has increased and it's fine. Moreover, she disappeared immediately after the battle. And it was only much later, at our own wedding, when it reappeared, that we understood the whole essence of its meaning. Well, as I said, as soon as Kakashi saw this tattoo, all questions immediately disappeared. After all, he is a clan shinobi, and he himself has never been a fool. Therefore, he only nodded gravely accepting such an answer, and here is Sakura. This is a separate instance. Well, what can I take from her? Although she is smart, but without clan upbringing she does not even know basic things. Therefore, when she saw our tattoo, she only snorted disdainfully, not taking everything seriously. But that's her problem. The main thing is that those who need it, they will understand. You didn't think we would hide this, did you? Let them get used to it. Kakashi, meanwhile, decided to wrap up. Apparently he needs to digest the information received. So he said okay. I'll be waiting for you tomorrow at 6 in the morning, at the 10th training ground. Don't be late. And as if he remembered something, he added, and I advise you not to eat anything. He finished, and disappeared into Shunshin's whirlwind. Yeah, right. We know him at 6 in the morning. He will be late again for a couple of hours, and even force the hungry to fight. Nope. I won't fall for this a second time. And apparently Sasuke shared my opinion, judging by his dismissive PF. We were left alone on the roof, well, except for Sakura drooling on my husband, sensibly reasoning that I have no desire to deal with her. Sasuke picked me up in his arms, and after finding out the coordinates, moved us straight home. There we were finally alone. Apart from Tsukuyumi, we haven't been able to be alone all day. Now, no one will interfere with us. I thought in anticipation, pulling Sasuke into a passionate kiss. Relaxed, of course. You'll still have time to complain. If you haven't forgotten to go get his things yet. And you haven't eaten anything since this morning. And you need to eat well now, after all, I spend a lot of your chakra on recovery. The previously silent Kurama gloated in my subconscious. I'm also a caring mom. You're right, I couldn't disagree with the fox. After all, he is right here. And as if in confirmation, my stomach rumbled. Oh, Naruto, apparently hearing my too loud belly, he immediately pulled away. Have you eaten today, How can I tell you? And receiving a disapproving look in response, I raised my hands in a conciliatory manner, hastily justifying myself. I was just in a hurry. Moreover, Kurama has already scolded me. Well, what am I going to do with you? My husband drawled in resignation. Then I thought about it, said, come on, I need to pick up my things now, and on the way back I'll go to the store and buy us something delicious. What do you want, honey? Ramen. I clapped my hands happily, already anticipating a delicious dinner. As always. Sasuke just shook his head in displeasure. Well, he doesn't like ramen, and that's it. Well, never mind, I know how to persuade him. Sasuke, drawing his attention to myself, I rather stretched out, and if you also buy tomatoes, then I'll make your favorite salad. I'm already running, honey. He kissed me on the cheek goodbye, and then my husband was gone. That's always the way, tomato lover, eh? And why do I just love him? Time flew by unnoticed, and not less than an hour later, my faithful rushed in with a bunch of packages. Not waiting any longer, I sent him to the shower, and I started cooking. Well, how about cooking, steaming ramen, and concocting the previously promised salad too? It did not take much time. And when Sasuke came out of the shower, everything was ready. After a quick dinner, I left the dishes for tomorrow, and I pulled Sasuke into the bedroom. And no, we had nothing again. After all, we are pretty tired today, and things won't sort themselves out. Therefore, after quickly unpacking Sasuke's clothes, we hugged and just fell on the bed. Let's leave the conversations for later, and now go to sleep. Tomorrow is going to be a hard day. Practical jokes and fun are waiting for you. My morning started with measured breathing over my ear. It was Sasuke who buried his face in the top of my head, and now he was sniffing sweetly, seeing the 10th dream. Carefully extricating myself from the tight embrace, I quietly went to the kitchen so as not to wake my husband. I'll cook us breakfast, so that we certainly won't be hungry on the test. By the way, for today's test. It's already 7 o'clock, and we just got up. But I think nothing terrible will happen if we stay a little longer. Moreover, I can bet that Kakashi will be 100% late, so, with a calm soul, I started cooking. When a ready-made omelette was bubbling on the stove, and the salad was dressed on the table, a sleepy Sasuke came into the kitchen. Coming up to me, he gently kissed me on the cheek, and purred in my ear, "Good morning, sunshine." He greeted me in a hoarse voice after sleep. "Good morning to you, too." Shifting the omelette onto plates, I pointed at the table, "Sit down to eat, my beloved. We still have about half an hour, and we will have to move out already." We had breakfast in silence. And I didn't want to interrupt the morning silence. After eating quickly, I sent Sasuke to the shower, and I ran to get ready. Fortunately, at least I thought of cooking clothes in advance. And then in the morning the head does not cook at all, and so, when I started to do my hair, Sasuke looked into the room. No, well, he's just kidding. He stands on his doorstep, wearing only one short towel, with his hair wet after a shower, and a seductive smile on his lips. Is that so? How can you look so sexy? I think nothing will happen if we are an hour late. I still had time to think before I was pulled into a passionate kiss. Needless to say, we are very late. We arrived at the designated landfill somewhere around 11. Well, yes. Got carried away. I admit it, but to my relief, Kakashi hasn't come yet. Only Sakura was alone under a tree. I even felt a little sorry for her, but all the pity immediately disappeared after her next words, "Good morning, Sasuke-kun." Completely ignoring me standing next to her, she continued, "How's the mood? It was good until you came up." Sasuke immediately cut off, and after giving her a cold look, he hugged me from behind, putting his head on my shoulder. So we stood there, until the arrival of Sensei. Fortunately, I didn't have to wait long. After a few minutes, a familiar silvery crown appeared on the horizon. Soon the man himself came up. "Good morning to all UT." But before he could finish, he was interrupted by an obviously evil Sakura. "You're late." She shouted loudly, and for persuasiveness she also poked her finger. Here it seems and found someone to snap at. But Jonin was clearly not listening to her. In place of this, he paid attention to us. More precisely, on our outfits. Limited. And here let's take a closer look. Last night Sasuke and I agreed to dress like in that world. That is, in pairs. By the way, we had clothes with us, thanks to another seal. Only here the size had to be shortened a little, but these are trifles. As a result, I was dressed in a blue combat kimono, with the coat of arms of the Uchi clan on the back, under the bottom of which were white shorts. On her feet are the same blue as kimono leg warmers to the middle of the thigh, and specially tailored white high sandals with lacing. Fortunately, at least my size is the same. I put on white wristbands with blue patterns on my hands, which hid several more seals. Sasuke, by the way, was dressed about the same, a blue men's yukata with a clan coat of arms, sleeveless, and his hands were wearing the same wristbands as mine, only instead of shorts he had white pants, and blue short shinobi sandals on his feet. In general, not clothes, but works of art. I remember how I suffered in the past, picking up joint clothes that both Sasuke and I would like. But the result then exceeded all expectations, and now, anyone who is at least somehow familiar with clan etiquette, like Kakashi, will immediately understand that in front of him is clearly a married couple and what? After this morning, I can rightfully wear this. But back to the polygon. It's time to start already. And as if in confirmation, Kakashi hurried to tell the essence of the task. Nothing unusual, all the same bells. He finished and gave the go-ahead to the beginning, let's get started. And we're already gone. Sasuke and I, for many years of service in the ANBU, as a well-trained combat deuce, have long learned to work without words. Moreover, thanks to the unusual marriage tattoo, we have our own little secret, Sasuke, there's not a real Kakashi in the clearing, a clone. I can't say more now, I need a hermit mode to calculate the present. I reported briefly. Yes, we can communicate mentally. Isn't it fun? I see. Then create clones, and start collecting natural energy for the hermit mode, and I'll cover it. Deciding to follow Sasuke's advice, I immediately sat down to meditate, accumulating the natural chakra. To my side, I felt Sasuke's chakra blazing. Well, as he said, he covers up. Meanwhile, in the clearing, Kakashi's clone was calmly reading a perverted book to himself. At the same time, he managed to deftly dodge the puny blows of Sakura. A couple more minutes of such a fight, and Sakura is trapped. Now the only thing she can do is watch. Being up to your neck in the ground, you won't win much. Meanwhile, I have accumulated enough chakra. Orange coloring appeared around the eyes themselves became toad-like, gold with black vertical rectangles. In general, the hermit mode in all its glory. Giving a sign to Sasuke, I began to scan the area in search of the original of our sensei. I found it. At 3 o'clock, 300 meters from us. On a tree. I reported the search results to my husband. After all, he has always been our commander, so let him sort it out. Got it. We do this, Kakashi already knows about my Mangekyo Sharingan. Therefore, I activate it in order to quietly transfer us to Sensei. Then it's up to you. I think one of your Fuin traps will be enough for him. Sasuke outlined his plan. And what? Simple and ingenious. However, as always. Sasuke, you're a genius. I said enthusiastically. Sasuke even blushed slightly at my praise. But quickly pulling himself together, he nodded and activated the funnel. Then everything happened pretty quickly. Here we appear behind Sensei's unexpected attack. Here he jumps away, but I still manage to put my seal on him. But Sensei is already lying on the ground, immobilized by my Fuin trap. It remains only to pick up the bells, and yes. We did it. As soon as the bells were in my hands, I jumped up joyfully, and stood in the most heroic pose while stretching out my hand with the bells forward, as if showing off to Sasuke. On such actions of his wife, Sasuke just rolled his eyes. After all, he loved her childlike spontaneity, but there are only 2 bells, and there are 3 of you in the team. What will you do? Kakashi, Sensei, who had been silent until then, spoke up. "Oh, and I forgot about him." I run up and start folding the seals for decontamination. Well, here. How are you? Are you hurt?" Helping to get up, I asked. Still, to fall from such a height, even if he was a shinobi, but he could still break something for himself. MMA, no, it's fine. Well, that's a stone from the soul. And then I didn't want to cripple my sensei on the first day. Meanwhile, he repeated his question, "And what will you do next?" "There are only 2 bells. Do you see the 3rd member of the team here?" Looking around the neighborhood, Sasuke asked. Kakashi shook his head negatively. Then why the questions? But after receiving a life-giving slap on the head from me, he immediately changed his mind. Good, good. This one, Sakura. I tore off 1 bell, he threw it to Sensei. And the second to whom? Interested looking at this little performance, Hatake asked my husband and I exchanged glances, and at the same time answered, "Us." Sasuke covered my hand with the 2nd bell with his hand. Thus, both of us seemed to have bells. Okay. You passed. And now, let's go dig up the 3rd member of the team. And already more quietly, I think I overdid it after all, it was on such a positive note that our test ended. And tomorrow the first mission awaits us. But, it will already be tomorrow. And now, Sasuke-e. Shall we go to Ichiraku? And under the cheerful laughter of Sensei, and the pained sigh of Sasuke, I dragged him along with me. I'll be waiting for you tomorrow at 7 near the residence. Don't be late. And without waiting for an answer, Kakashi disappeared. Well, Ramen, wait. I'm coming. I thought in anticipation, there was another surprise waiting for us in the city. And no, I'm not talking about the sideways glances that we were awarded by everyone who was not lazy. We have long been accustomed to this in the past and have learned not to pay attention. Uchi masked to help us. I meant the brothers. Yes, our brothers and Sasuke. As it turned out, they work in the same ANBU team, and were just returning from another long mission when they saw us. Well, yes, the meeting turned out to be the same. Who is to blame that they got to such a moment? I just stopped in the middle of the street to persuade Sasuke for a couple of servings of ramen. Well, and, persuaded. A kiss. You should have seen their faces. And the cry of my Enai-san, Amato. Probably the whole Konoha heard. That's it, the first meeting came out. However, we were not at a loss, and took the brothers, who were resisting little from shock, to our home. We'll talk there, and now, Sasuke and I are sitting, as always, in an embrace on the couch, and waiting for them to recover. Not surprisingly, Itachi was the first to recover. After looking at us again, he asked only one thing: what happened during my absence, Ototo? After briefly exchanging glances, which did not hide from Itachi's gaze, my husband sighed heavily and began the story. He told me everything, from the beginning of our story, to moving in here. About the fact that their brother and sister are already dead. Since we got here, they guessed for themselves. Why did we tell the truth? It's simple. We discussed yesterday that we would not hide anything from the brothers. They themselves would have guessed sooner or later. So it's better to tell them yourself than to turn them against you. Moreover, they love us. It's not worth talking about Itachi, but Menma, this is my older brother, although he is afraid of the fox inside, but he still tried to protect his younger sister in every possible way. Unfortunately, both one and the other serve in the ANBU, and therefore they had almost no time for us. But all the same, they deserve us to be honest with them, and as it turned out, our honesty has fully justified itself. After listening to the whole story, Itachi pulled his brother to him, and whispered, "Whoever you are, you will always be my stupid little brother." And poked 2 fingers into Sasuke's forehead, in the manner of Itachi from our world. Seeing this, I almost burst into tears. But my brother did not restrain himself. He literally squeezed me in his arms. At the same time, Prikatea, "Anyway, you will remain my Amato. Remember, now you have a brother." Then we talked about a lot more, because they wanted to know literally everything about us. But it got dark outside, and it was time to say goodbye. Having previously agreed to meet on the weekend, I kissed my brother on the cheek, and hugging Itachi goodbye, they wanted to disperse. But as if they had decided something for themselves, they looked at each other, and before leaving, they said, "You can count on us." That's it, short and clear. But how much meaning there is in these words. After all, now Sasuke and I have brothers. And I will do everything to, at least, not for long, but to live a big family. A week has passed since that day. Sasuke and I lived in the same rhythm. Missions, training, and more missions. Nothing complicated, just a D rank. And this is for us as for elite shinobi, like a mockery. Well, really, imagine, 2 of the strongest shinobi in the world, war heroes, so what in another world? And suddenly they dig the grandmother's garden, or even catch a cat. And this is also under the snide remarks of the fox. Presented? That's what I'm talking about, and every day there's less patience. So today, catching a cat again, I finally lost my nerves. That's it. Tired of it. If today, they don't give us something more difficult than catching a cat, then, but Kakashi-sensei didn't let me finish. He looked at our couple with my husband, figured out what our hysteria with him could cost, and humbly bowed his head, assured. "Okay. I'll talk to the Hokage today." "Only here," somehow hesitantly drawled Jonin. "Only here, what?" I prompted. "Well, really, if there is at least some opportunity to break out of this monotony, I will do everything I can. Only here, you will come with me. Or not all of them." And seeing our sour faces with Sasuke, he continued, "I'm serious. Stop ignoring the Hokage already. I understand family matters and all that, but I can't persuade him myself." Yes, he's right about that. After all, since our appearance in this world, I have not met my father. We even received missions through Kakashi-sensei. Stop avoiding the meeting. Am I Naruto or who? It's decided. Today we will go to the Hokage and show what it means to get involved with the Uchiha couple. Only, you're coming with me, aren't you, Sasuke? I asked plaintively, making the cutest little dog I was capable of. Always with you. That's why I love Sasuke. Whatever happens, I can rely on him. And my grateful kiss had nothing to do with it. That's right at all. Meanwhile, a business-like atmosphere reigned in the Hokage's office. In addition to the 4th one, there were a couple of accountants, Irika Yumano, our former teacher, and oddly enough Sasuke's father, Fugaku Uchiha. Having gone into the office together with Kakashi-sensei to hand over the last mission, and as it was agreed earlier, to negotiate for another, more complex one, we found the workflow, so to speak, in full swing. But as soon as they looked at the unexpected visitors, a deathly silence instantly fell in the office. "Oh, I can't. Their faces are something. Especially funny, the equally fucked up faces of our fathers looked the same. Well, yes, I can understand them in this. After all, not so long ago they were, as they thought, worthless children who were afraid not to say anything, even to look in their direction, now boldly stand in an embrace in the middle of the office, and look at them with contempt. But this is not the main thing. After all, looking at quite a married couple, and the fact that they are a couple can clearly be seen by their clothes. Well, yes, from that day on we dressed only in pairs and in no other way. And they didn't even hide, rumors have been going around for a long time. But it's one thing to hear rumors, and it's quite another to see it with your own eyes. So, looking at us, well, you can't say that we are only 12. Thanks to Kurama for the rapid growth. As a result, we now look at all 15, and our strength could be seen with the naked eye. That for a good censor, which is Minato, it was simply impossible not to notice. And these are our children. And it was read on the faces of our dads. Yes, in order not to laugh at such a picture, Sasuke still did not want to spoil the image of a cold shinobi. He buried his face in my neck and now only slightly trembling shoulders gave out that he was laughing. Trying not to laugh myself, I began to sort through Sasuke's hair in order to somehow distract myself. It looks like I did it for nothing. Fugaku, who more or less came to his senses when he saw what I was doing, just grabbed his heart. And look, the stroke will be enough. And all why? Yes, because hair is sacred for Uchi. And only family members are allowed to touch them. It seems only after such a clear proof, it finally dawned on him that this was not a hoax, and his youngest son was really already married. As a result, against our background, even Kakashi got lost. What can we say about the quiet Sakura? But everything ends sooner or later, so this moment could not last forever. And after a few minutes, the Hokage still deigned to come to his senses, and find out the purpose of our visit to him. Hataki took the floor, as the main one in the team. Hokage-sama, team number 7 and I have come to hand over an already completed mission of rank D, and get a new one. Also, I would like to ask you to give us something more complicated, for example, the rank C. The word remains only for you. I, in turn, as their teacher, can assure you that they have a good stock of knowledge and skills for such missions. Jonin blurted out in one breath, and waited for the Hokage's reaction. Well, what can I say? I was waiting for everything, from screams to cold rejection, but not this, okay? Minato answered melancholically, looking somewhere over us. Yes, after all, they brought the man. And we haven't kissed yet. Meanwhile, my father wearily waved his hand to someone, and already told us, your customer is coming now. Your mission will be to accompany him. And here he is, by the way. As soon as the Hokage finished speaking, the door to the room opened, and he was standing on the threshold. Tazuna. Well, why? Why Tazuna again? I prayed mentally, and our bridge builder, meanwhile, stumbled into the room, and after looking us up and down, gave us away. And these will protect me? Ugh, that's a fume. And I already forgot that he doesn't smell like freesias. I don't like them. Especially this blonde with a silly smile. And that's him for nothing. Only a suicide could insult me in front of Sasuke. That's what I said. No one had time to understand anything, as my husband was near the builder, and already held him by the neck. Apologize immediately. Sasuke ordered in a cold voice. At the same time, a downright murderous aura gathered around him. But surprisingly, no one in the office moved, and Sasuke did not interfere. Fugaku seemed to enjoy the spectacle at all. Did it seem to me, or did he give something else to my father? No, it didn't seem like it. These two old geezers, sitting comfortably in chairs, were popping seeds, and waiting for the denouement of the story. Meanwhile, Tetsuna had no time for jokes at all. He first turned pale, then blushed, and finally somehow gave out, "From sorry." But seeing that Sasuke is in no hurry to calm down, I decided to intervene. Or else he'll kill him again, and they'll let us catch the cat again. No way, Sasuke. Approaching my husband, I hugged him from behind, and tried to pull him away from Tetsuna. However, unsuccessfully. Well, he's already apologized. And it won't be like this anymore. Is that right? And receiving a negative moo in response, she continued, "See, HH. Incredulously. Well, let's forgive for the first time. Moreover, you won't waste your strength on someone like him, will you? I added slyly. Pf. Proudly. And in the eyes of complacency. And if we go now, we'll still have time to go for groceries, and I'll cook your favorite casserole. Turned his head with interest. Already progress. So I decided to finish it off. With tomatoes, He drawled in anticipation, and releasing Tazuna, turned to me. Yes, let's go. And before he changed his mind, dragged him out of the office. Leaving the shocked ninjas to look after us. I'll deal with the mission later, they won't leave without us anyway, but Sasuke may still change his mind, and the last thing I heard was the loud voice of the fathers. After all, he is a real Uchiha. It's a pity it just opened too late, Fugaku said proudly but with a certain sadness. Nope. This is Naruto, the real Uzumaki. So to tame the Uchi, you still need to be able to. Minato said no less proudly. And then it's quieter, and how did she understand anything among the grunts? I don't understand. At such a remark of my father, I just grinned contentedly. Indeed, the Uchikovsky language is something with something. And in general, I was happy. After all, despite everything, the day was a success. Now it remains only to calm Sasuke down, but I will somehow cope with this. We woke up surprisingly early. After all, today we are waiting for the first mission of the very rank C. How so? But this did not spoil my mood, and I, with my eternal smile, was now walking through the streets of Konoha. Dragging a still sleepy Sasuke in TOW.SO, the gate appeared. Sakura was already standing next to them with Kakashi-sensei, who, surprisingly, was not late, the customer of Tazen, and what are they doing there? Coming closer, I made sure that this was not a glitch, and our brothers and Sasuke were really standing near the gate, Yamato. As soon as I approached, I was immediately crushed in an embrace. Vet. I managed to croak. A little more and strangle. Apparently realizing his mistake, he immediately let go. I'm sorry. A conciliatory brother raised his hands, under the evil gaze of Sasuke. We are this. What did you come for? He hesitated a little on the last word, but still continued, warn in general, about what? All the drowsiness with Sasuke was removed by hand. No matter what, he cares about our safety like no one else. Stop scaring me, Menma. Itachi, who had been silent before, intervened in the conversation. He means that we were assigned to follow you, And in more detail? I asked at the same time as my husband. I do not know what you did yesterday. But the opinion of the fathers about you has changed dramatically. And as a result, we have to secretly monitor you. So that's what's the matter. It dawned on me, and I was about to breathe a sigh of relief, when it dawned on me, and why did you tell us everything? You were supposed to be secretly watching. Well, we know you. With your sensory abilities, you would have figured us out by 1 or 2. And I personally would not like to lose your trust. Here, awkwardly scratching the top of his head, my Enai-san said. Itachi only nodded in agreement. After all, we have wonderful brothers. In general, it's time for us. Menma caught himself, and nodding goodbye to us, they disappeared into the vortex of Shunshin. Yes, the mission hasn't started yet, but it's already so interesting. What will happen next? It's been a couple of hours since we left the village. There is only one forest around. The morning silence was interrupted only by our quiet footsteps and the rustling of leaves. Our little procession was headed by Kakashi-sensei, who was walking and at the same time reading his vulgar little book. He was followed by Sakura, near whom something was mumbling, our customer. and Sasuke and I brought up the rear. To be honest, I was already getting tired of this slowness and silence. Moreover, not far away I felt the chakra of our brothers, who were walking a little behind, and I bet they also had time to play cards. Well, what can you do? We may be ninjas, but Tazuna is an ordinary person. Therefore, with a heavy sigh, I humbly walked on. At least one ninja got caught or something? I thought longingly, and immediately got up. That's right, ninja. Sasuke, do you remember exactly when we were attacked by those chunins that were before the storm? Are you impatient already? My husband mentally teased me. You have no idea how. I happily drawled, already mentally anticipating a fight. And you listen, somewhere a kilometer away from us, a killer chakra is felt. Well, what idiots, they can't even hide their ki. And indeed, how could I not have noticed? But I just couldn't not tease Sasuke. I stretched out so disgusting, and ignoring the warning look, I continued, so you know how to hide your ki, right? And then, yesterday I didn't notice something, and without waiting for his reaction, I ran forward laughing happily. Dobe. Already in a voice, Sasuke growled angrily, and immediately rushed after me. Our little race amused the others so well, and we walked on in high spirits. Why small? Yes, because I stumbled from laughing at the first turn, and if it wasn't for Sasuke, I would have hit the ground well. From such clumsiness of his wife, Sasuke already laughed, and lifting me in his arms, like a princess, he carried me on, never letting go of his hands. I caught an interesting conversation out of the corner of my ear. Listen, what are they? Somehow Tazuna began hesitantly, asking Kakashi-sensei. Finally he found a word, and finished, a couple? Jonin asked in disbelief. Then he looked at us, he somehow dreamily finished, no, they are a family. Without listening any further, I settled comfortably in my husband's arms, enjoying the sudden trip. It took more than an hour, moving at a slow pace, we still reached the ill-fated puddle. Giving a sign to Sasuke, I jumped off his hands and prepared to attack. I must say just in time. After all, we had not gone 3 steps when 2 acrobat brothers jumped out to meet us, with a poison chain. My husband and I exchanged glances, and I bet our smiles didn't bode well right now. They probably expected a slightly different reaction, as they fell into a short-term stupor. Which eventually played into our hands, and taking advantage of the ninja's confusion, we hurried to attack immediately. Rasengan, Chidori, 2 simultaneous exclamations, the chirping of 1,000 birds, a blow and silence. A layer of dust rose from my Rasengan, which blocked the view of the rest of the team. But when the visibility cleared up a little, the following picture appeared before them. Sasuke and I were standing calmly over the unconscious and bound bodies of the chunins. This alone caused no small shock. But my exclamation finally finished off boring. I even stamped my foot in frustration. And shaking her head in disappointment, she continued, and so I wanted to have fun. Who the hell are they? At the end, Tazuna cried out hysterically. Is there anything else you want to tell us? Jonin began with a threat, and as if calculating the options in his mind, he continued, maybe, the truth, the truth? I immediately lost all my ardor, architect. But under our testing looks with Sasuke, I gave up. Okay. These are Gato's mercenaries, they're hunting me. The fact is that a year ago, the shipowner Gato came to the land of waves. He immediately seized power over all sea transport. And so, our last hope was the bridge. And if I finish the construction, then his power will come to an end. Therefore, he will interfere with me in every way, up to my murder. But why didn't you say so right away? After all, such missions are of the B rank, no less, and this is only now that we have come across chunins. And then it will certainly be more difficult. Kakashi sighed heavily and looked at us. I take it's useless to ask about the continuation of the mission? And having received a negative answer, he humbly bowed his head, finished, okay, we will continue the mission. And already turning to Tedzuna, only I would like to know everything in more detail. I did not listen further, because the further concert of one actor, in the person of Tedzuna, was enough for me in the past. Moreover, I was unexpectedly distracted. Naruto, I'm done. Now you can have fun. The fox growled happily in my head. Kurama. How I missed you. She greeted her furry friend no less joyfully. After all, Kurama was busy all the time correcting both Mai and Sasuke's body to use a large amount of chakra. There was not enough time, all that remained was to see each other in the evenings in the subconscious. And now that he's finished, I'll be able to use all my techniques. No limits. Did you hear, Sasuke? Finally, it will be possible not to hold back. My beloved exhaled with relief. I feel a big surprise is waiting for Lisa. A couple more hours passed. We have already managed to reach the forest. I know. It was here, if we recall, in the past that our first meeting with one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist, Lisa Momochi, took place. By the way, we were in high spirits. At least Sasuke and I were not bored by the fox. And now I have diligently compensated for all those hours of missed communication. So, laughter and jokes have become an integral part of our journey. Well, our laughter with Sasuke for no apparent reason initially strained the rest of the team, but soon they got used to it. And even Tedzuna stopped flinching at every rustle, and so we went, until a familiar sword flew overhead. It was necessary to be so carried away by communication that they did not notice the arrival of the main villain. And here he is, a tall ninja, wearing a mask covering half of his face, and no, it's not Kakashi, but the ninja Momochi himself, stands on a sword in all his splendor. Okay, enough of the compensation, it's time to get down to business. Meanwhile, the swordsman glanced at us with an uninterested look, addressing Kakashi. Wow, who do I see? This is the copying ninja himself, Kakashi Hatake. The swordsman pretended to round his eyes. Really? Are you the same demon of the hidden mist, Lisa Momochi? Our sensei drawled in no less pretense. And nothing like that, a worthy answer. Now at least it became clear to me who defeated the ninja brothers, but I didn't guess. Jonan drawled with a chuckle in his voice. And he solemnly announced, these were my students. Moving a little to the side, he presented us for review, while wiping an invisible tear. Yeah, communication with us has a bad effect on him, but, nevertheless, we stood in the most advantageous position, and bowed theatrically, receiving invisible applause. Meanwhile, the swordsman, with more and more shit on his face, was following our performance. And in the eyes it was read, they are all idiots. But surprisingly quickly recovering, he decided to interrupt this impromptu concert. They killed the Chunins? Don't make me laugh. I'll fill them up with one clone without even straining. And seeing that they don't pay any attention to his words, well, just no attention, and we continue to fool around, he drawled in resignation, yes, you're all idiots here, baka. I shouted resentfully at such a statement. And pouting, she crossed her arms over her chest. By Jadamka him. He will know how to offend my Jinchuriki. The fox growled in righteous anger, but there was laughter in his voice. After all, such a situation amused him pretty much. Okay, that's enough. Our swordsman finally lost his nerve. And the next second he poked at my husband and my couple, shouted, you, and you. Both of you. I want to fight you. One-on-one. Without the intervention of outsiders. At these words, he looked at Kakashi. So, the winner takes the old man, PF. From such self-confident words I will forget, my husband already skewed. After all, speaking for Tedzuna, the swordsman was clearly hinting at himself. Kakashi, on the other hand, glared at us for a few minutes, nodded seriously, thereby giving us tacit permission to fight. You don't need more. First of all, we moved away from the others at a sufficient distance. Standing against each other, we began our fight. Well, how did you start? The goat clearly decided to show off by standing on the water. And looking at us with a sneer, he let out a little of his killer ki. Did you decide to scare us? Yes, compared to the same Sasuke in a bad mood, this ki is just a light zilch. Are you already trembling with fear? Looking at my trembling shoulders, the swordsman asked with a victorious grin, and looking at how his face was glowing with self-satisfaction, I couldn't stand it. Oh, I can't. Holding my stomach, I somehow managed to say, from laughter, his fucking face needed to be seen. 1-0 in favor of the Uchi couple. But it didn't last long, and after a minute, coming to his senses, the man just turned purple with anger. Oh hey. I think it's time to act. Kurama said excitedly. And I, looking at the increasingly angry Lisa, just couldn't disagree with him. Well, Sasuke, are you ready to warm up? Just don't accidentally kill him. And, knowing her husband, she will kill him and not notice. Still asking, Naru. Is she ready? Sasuke asked with slight excitement for me. Stop exchanging pleasantries already, the swordsman is going to have enough now, from your looks in love with each other, Kurama grumbled. Well, Fox. Couldn't help but spoil the atmosphere. Okay, don't grumble. Better give your chakras, let's start, and as in confirmation, I felt the fox chakra flowing through the channels. My appearance immediately underwent a change. I literally lit up with a golden light. Before that, my loose hair rose into the air and divided into 9 parts, the stripes on my cheeks became thicker and blackened, my blue eyes took on a golden hue with a cross-shaped pupil, but not only the face underwent changes. A white and gold cloak appeared on top of my clothes, a black elongated staff formed in one hand, a sun tattoo appeared on the back of my palm in the other, and several black spheres hung over my shoulders. I literally exuded strength. Well, what can I say, the sage mode in all its glory, Sasuke was my complete opposite. No light, just a dark aura, literally spread over his head. Rinnegan, a gift from the sage, lit up in one eye, while the second was his eternal Mangek Sharingan. The same tattoo as mine appeared on my right hand, only for a month. And strength, she literally pinned the goat to the ground. Well, are you trembling? Sasuke drawled mockingly, looking at the swordsman lying at his feet. And he shook his head in disappointment, asked, Are you giving up already? You won't wait. The goat barked angrily, and resisting the pressing ki, somehow got to his feet. I've been waiting for this answer. Sasuke flashed his Sharingan. And the next second, the goat collapsed to the ground as if knocked down, writhing in convulsions, and his face was distorted simply in animal horror. A few minutes of such fluttering and he seemed to wake up, wheezed, I give up, leaning on his sword. Zabuza raised his eyes to the tree, and addressing someone in the foliage, said, Haku, we're leaving. Seeing my husband's satisfied smile, it began to dawn on me what he had done. Tsukuyami means. He made a genjutsu, but he didn't even leave me anything. That's a red-eyed infection. I'll show him how to have fun alone, Sasuke-kun, I literally sang in a cute voice. Looking at how the bronze was taken away by the masked man, he finally paid attention to me. And for some reason, he immediately turned pale. Run Sasuke, run. Losing with my Chakrapravidni frying pan, I advised, needless to say, Sasuke is gone. But no one has run away from me yet. Meanwhile, in the clearing, the team we had forgotten looked with interest at these catch-ups. But quickly recovering, Kakashi just shrugged his shoulders, and opening another book, led everyone further into the land of waves. At Sakura's questioning look, he explained, "They'll catch up." Before finally delving into reading after our catch-up, by the way, I did catch up with Sasuke. We were tired and happy and hurried to catch up with the others. They didn't have time to go far, and after walking a couple hundred meters from the clearing, we noticed the whole honest company. They didn't react to our appearance in any way, only Kakashi nodded to us, still not looking up from the book. We are not the only censors here, by the way. For censors, when I approached Tazuna's house, I noticed a familiar chakra on the horizon. This is our brothers with Sasuke, as mentioned earlier, continued to follow. Well, as if, I do not know that they perceive this task as a well-deserved vacation. And now, instead of faithfully fulfilling the mission, I activated the censor, noticed them surrounded by a large number of women. Are they resting in a brothel? I wonder what they will write in the report. However, these are not my problems anymore. They are adult boys who will come up with something, and in the meantime I will eat. And what? The daughter of the tsunami architect, a lovely woman, as soon as we crossed the threshold, she immediately called us to the table. And I will say one thing, I do not intend to refuse such a generous offer. Throwing aside unnecessary thoughts to the side, I started eating with a calm soul and a rumbling stomach. A couple of hours later, the knight, all well-fed and satisfied, saw the 10th dream. Everyone except Sasuke. He had been tossing and turning on the futon for more than an hour, thereby destroying the fragile silence of the night. Finally, he got tired of it, and he began to take decisive action. Or rather, his hand made a slight attempt in my direction. Stroking my thigh, he whispered hotly in my ear, "Naru, are you asleep?" And not seeing any reaction, he continued more insistently, "Well, Naru, I know you're not sleeping." By the way, only he and his wife were in the room. The rest of the insightful tsunami, settled separately, out of harm's way. "Okay, I'm not sleeping." I turned my head in the direction of my husband, and finished dissatisfied, "But that doesn't mean I'll allow it." "No, A pleading look, right into my eyes. That I said no. Ignoring the plaintive pug, I answered firmly. And for the sake of persuasiveness, she added, "It's your own fault. And now go ahead and have fun with the benefit." Is it just me, or did it turn out somehow offended? Well, I'm sorry, honey. No, I don't think so. Meanwhile, my husband continued, "Well, honestly, I won't do it anymore." Itch. At the same time he looked so sweetly into my eyes that I just couldn't stand it. And light kisses on the neck have nothing to do with it at all. Sasuke, taking this as a positive answer, he kissed me tenderly. How good. Only here, Sasuke, they'll hear us. In response, I received a cheeky look, and a quiet hoarse whisper, "And when did it stop us?" You remember reside on the roof. This time it was I who shut him up, having sunk a passionate kiss into such desirable lips. And not holding back the first moan, I thought, nothing's going to happen if we mess around a bit, right? After all, Sasuke is right, and the presence of people has never stopped us yet. Databeo, needless to say, the next morning everyone looked a little sleepy. The whole breakfast was accompanied by understanding looks from Tazuna and her daughter, and some kind of dreamy look from Kakashi. Pervert. But Sakura blushed all the time, and sometimes meeting our eyes sharply averted her gaze. The tense silence of the morning was diffused, oddly enough, by baby Inarita. "Naruto-chan, are you all right already?" And seeing my uncomprehending look, he explained, "Well, I couldn't sleep yesterday, and I heard moans of pain from your room. Probably you were wounded during the battle yesterday." I choked on such a statement of the boy. But what am I? Everyone choked. By the way, I must say that last night a drunken Tedzuna painted our exploits in such a way that even the skeptical kid Inari believed. And now he considered Sasuke and me at least heroes. Which, to be honest, I was a little flattered. And now we have to pay the price. Why yes, clearing my throat, I finished more confidently. Inari, don't worry, everything is fine with me already, that's what I understood. The boy said even more joyfully. And wisely shook his head, continued, you still have a good guy, supported you all night. I heard it. Naru, honey, a little more. Be patient. He mimicked Sasuke's voice, and this was the last straw. There was literally a general laugh at the table. What did I say? Inari asked in bewilderment, looking at the reaction of the others. After breakfast, the whole honest company of us went to train in the forest. Well, how to train? Kakashi-sensei taught Sakura to walk on trees, and then on water. Meanwhile, my husband and I settled under a tree and conducted our conversation. It all came down to whether to tell Kakashi the truth, or to keep him in the dark. After all, sooner or later he will understand, if he has not already understood. Therefore, after consulting, we decided to tell you after all. We were not afraid for the safety of information. Hatake is a smart ninja and will not talk in vain. And for all the time of our training, he has never handed us over to my father. That was decided. Calling Kakashi to us, I brought him into my inner world to talk there without witnesses, and together with Sasuke and Kurama told him the whole story. To say that he was in shock is to say nothing. But surprisingly, he quickly believed, probably still guessed, and just as quickly accepted us. It was like a stone fell from my soul then. Still, Hatake has always been a dear person to us, and in this world he has not changed at all. It's been easier since that day. I didn't have to pretend in front of Kakashi, though not that we would ever have tried, but still. Now he treated us as equals, began to trust us more, and in general became much closer to us. By the way, we saw our brothers a couple of times in the city. They are quite happy with their lives, they didn't even think to follow. Meanwhile, the construction of the bridge was underway. I'll forget how we previously agreed not to appear on the horizon. I hope at least he will live here, but on the last day of construction we were given a surprise in the form of a bunch of mercenaries and Gato at the head. Oh, we had fun then. It was a great workout, and useful. After what he saw, Gato was ready to return the money to a penny, which he naturally did, and now the country of waves is not such a poor country. Well, what can I say? We combined business with pleasure, and now, standing in front of the completed bridge, which will rightfully bear the name Naruto, we were saying goodbye to the hospitable family of Tedzuna, and baby Inari in particular. He has become very attached to us during this time, and looking at how Sasuke is happily messing with the boy, I even thought about my child. Of course, only after returning to our world. Only while it's a secret. Well, what can I say? The mission is over. We're going home. A month has passed since our return to Konoha. We all also trained, and went on numerous missions. And now we have been gathered on the bridge to receive the next mission. Only now, Kakashi was late as always, and I think I know why. Since the morning, more and more ninjas have been arriving in Konoha, and the male falcon is flying to the residence. After all, if my memory does not change, Chunin Shuriken should take place soon. In which we will certainly take part. Miss out on such fun? No way. Even Sakura, after that mission in the land of waves, probably decided something for herself, well, or Kakashi helped, and now, in order not to be a burden in the team, she attends Irionen's courses in good faith, and to be honest, she does it well. After all, being a medic is in her blood, but enough thinking, otherwise I'll miss the most interesting. And as a confirmation, Kakashi-sensei appeared next to us in a whirlwind of leaves. Sorry for being late. I was delayed by this. He, out of breath and satisfied, handed us each a form. And seeing Sakura's uncomprehending look, he explained, I recommended you for the Chunin exam this year. What I gave you are the participation forms. If you agree, fill them out and come to the 302 auditorium tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Good luck. Having uttered the last words, he did not listen to the answer, but simply disappeared with a pop, yeah. And what do you think, Sakura? Seeing the pink-haired girl's hesitation, I decided to push her a little. We are the best team. Together we are a force. Moreover, you are our Irionin, and if anything, you will not leave us in trouble. Is that right? And more plaintive intonation in the voice. It always works without question. And now, as soon as she looked at me, she immediately gave up, of course I won't. And more confidently, where are you without me? Well, here she certainly bent, but the main thing is the result, right? We talked her into it, and now, having said goodbye to Haruno with a calm soul, Sasuke and I went home. Getting ready. Yeah. Let's start right on the bed. The next morning we started in a hurry. We overslept. And now they were running around the house like crazy in search of some clothes. After all, yesterday, because of Sasuke, who was distracting me a lot, I never bothered to cook everything. I didn't have time, because, first the bed, then the table in the kitchen, and then the bathroom. In general, there is no time left for packing at all. And as a result, we managed to oversleep, and even make such a mess in the house that you won't find anything here right now. But then remembering that we somehow don't have to run, and we can use Sasuke's eyes to move directly to the academy, we calmed down. Now that I wasn't in a hurry, I was able to find all the things I needed surprisingly quickly. 2 sets of clothes for me and my husband for today, and a few things to print, for passing the forest of death. Not that I was afraid, but it was better to be safe. By the way, I did not take ordinary clothes. This kit was made to order, for especially dangerous missions. It contained more than 10 seals on the wristbands, many hidden pockets for weapons in the kimono itself, and even shoes with a special sole that springs your step, allowing you to gently land from whatever height you jump. By the way, the coloring was also symbolic. I had a yellow kimono with the sun embroidered on the chest. The wristbands and belt were bright blue with golden flame patterns that suited my eyes so well. The legs were dressed in blue leggings up to the middle of the thigh, over which there were yellow high sandals. Sasuke was my complete opposite. A dark blue kimono with a moon embroidered on its chest, wristbands of the same color were worn on his hands, with silver patterns of stars, which looked very harmoniously with his eyes as black as the night itself. Under the bottom were white shorts, with black bandages to the knees, and the same as mine, only white, short shinobi sandals. Finally getting dressed, I admired our reflection in the mirror for a few minutes. I must say we looked, despite the opposite, very harmoniously. But stop wasting time. It's time for exams. The Uchi couple is coming. We appeared near the entrance to the academy. Coming out of the funnel, the first thing we saw were a few ninja shocked by our appearance, and only then we noticed Sakura and Kakashi-sensei waiting near the door. As soon as we approached, the latter immediately began, "Yo. I'm watching everything in the assembly." Then all right, you can go through. Taking our completed forms, he casually said, "Otherwise, if you all did not agree, the team would simply not be allowed to participate." Having said that, he disappeared under the loud indignation of Sakura. So what? There was nothing for us to do, so we entered the academy and headed towards the 302 auditorium. On the second floor we saw a group of genins. They made pandemonium near the 202 auditorium, having fallen for a simple genjutsu. Among the participants, we also noticed Guy's team, which, as in the past, argued with Izumo and Kotetsu closing the entrance. Sasuke and I just shrugged our shoulders at such a performance, and passed by deciding not to interfere. That's just it, hey, you little ones. Yeah, only a blind man could call us that. After all, since we got here, we managed to grow up pretty much, and now we looked at least 16 years old. But let's return to the couple of suicides who shouted at us. Seeing that we turned around, they continued, "Yes, you. Where are you going to go?" to the 302 audience, as I answered by myself. And right before our eyes, genjutsu dissipated, revealing the sign, 202, in front of the genins. Deciding that the conversation was over, I turned around to continue walking, but we were stopped again. And no, it's not Izumo with Kotetsu. You're Naruto-san, right? Yes, the future green beast of Konoha literally flew up to me, or is it just in the common people? Only he won't say what I think, will he? Let's date. Or he will. Oh, what's going to happen now? Knowing my husband's character, I even felt sorry for Lee. And this is a thick-browed misunderstanding, now standing in the good guy stance, and letting loving glances at me. I didn't even know about anything, hands off. As it turned out, while I was in a short-term stupor, Lee managed to come up and grab my hand. And even after Sasuke's words, Lee didn't let go. Which was a huge mistake. After all, seeing that his words did not react in any way, my husband broke down and hit Lee so that the thick-browed man flew a good half of the room, literally imprinted into the wall. And Sasuke himself at this time pressed me to his waist, thereby showing everyone to whom I belong, but even this seemed to him not enough because he publicly declared, "I said take your hands off my wife. That's the owner. But that's why I love him, and now I think it's time to calm down your jealous man, before he thinks of something else for himself." Well, or he didn't kill all the males here, as they say, out of harm's way. Sasuke, we're late. Attracting my husband's attention to me, I, ignoring the looks of the crowd, gently kissed him on the lips. Reluctantly breaking away, I suggested, "Let's go, come on." Pleased like a cat who has eaten sour cream, he looked at the others with superiority before taking me away with him. Yeah, exams haven't started yet, and there are already so many problems. Databeo, as soon as we entered, the genins of our graduation standing in a bunch immediately caught our eye. After exchanging a brief glance with Sasuke, we decided to approach the others. "Did you guys come to this stupid test too?" Lazily stretching his words, and sometimes yawning, Shikamaru asked us. "As you can see." I nodded happily. "I see that everyone is assembled." Kiba waved his hand affably, drawing attention to himself, and spoke. He was echoed by the joyful barking of Akamaru, who settled on his head like a fluffy white cloud. "Hello." Hinata greeted us shyly, looking over the shoulder of the dogman. Then the conversation somehow did not start, except for the tricks of Kiba, who loudly shouted bragging to Sasuke about his strength. For which I received only a disdainful snort of the latter, because Sasuke, in turn, did not even think to get away from me, continuing to hug me around the waist in his own way. I don't know how it happened, but our company eventually created too much noise, which we immediately didn't need to report. "You should be quieter." A painfully familiar voice sounded. And a tall, ash-haired guy with round glasses and a Konoha protector on his belt came up to us. Yes, it was a well-known Kabuto. Who, with a fake smile, well, at least for Sasuke and me, asked, "Guys, you are 9 recruits from the academy, right?" And having received nods of agreement, while ignoring our hostile looks with Sasuke, he continued, Yakushi Kabuto. And you'd better look around. Those guys behind are from the Hidden Rain. They are very nervous. Everyone is preoccupied with the exam. Therefore, I would advise you to be more calm before anything happens. I don't know what else he wanted to say. More precisely, I already know, but this time the concert was not destined to come true. After all, a man appeared in the middle of the audience to, "Thanks for waiting. I am the examiner of the first stage Chunin Shuriken, Marino Ibiki." A tall, stern-looking man said. There were many scars on his face, and a bandana with the sign of Konoha covered his head. "And now we will begin the first entrance exam, on Chunin." He seated us pretty quickly. By the way, I got a place next door to Hinata again. Looking around, I noted the location of Sasuke, and with a calm soul, I began to listen to what Marino was telling us. Although I already knew what he was going to say, but don't spoil the atmosphere, right? There are many important rules in this exam. I won't repeat myself, so listen carefully. Ibiki began his speech. Rules? There was a puzzled whisper in the classroom. The first rule, you all start with 10 points. Absolutely ignoring the whispers, the examiner continued. This test consists of 10 questions. The price of each of which is 1 point, a subtraction system is embedded in the tests. Simply put, if you answer all 10 questions correctly, you leave your 10 points. I didn't listen any further. Honestly, I tried, but still couldn't. Therefore, having ignored further instructions, I woke up only to a shout, "Let's get started." Without hesitation, I turned the leaf over, and after looking at the questions, I immediately began to perform. Well, what about it? For me, as an experienced ANBU, they were not difficult. But geniuses should be worried. Clearly not their level. Quickly writing all the answers, I lay down on the desk, and stared at the ceiling with indifference. After sitting like that for about 5 minutes, I got bored. And my 5th point wanted adventures. Apparently not to me alone, because the next second I heard Sasuke's voice in my thoughts. "Naru, what are we going to do for another 40 minutes of the exam?" With the hope of my next brilliant idea, my husband asked. After all, in matters of entertainment, and in general in search of problems on my 5th point, I am a master. Well, I don't know. And really, what can you do, sitting at different ends of the audience and not attracting a lot of attention to yourself? Unless that, Sasuke, I drawled in anticipation. And I could bet that Biju literally danced in my eyes. Judging by Marino's strange look, they danced there no less than a rumba. The husband asked no less interested. Maybe, Tsukuyami? And to explain the whole idea, she continued, so no one will understand anything, but we will be able to spend time usefully. Moreover, you don't need direct contact with me, our seal is enough. Then what are we waiting for? Sasuke asked impatiently. Before I was sucked into the illusion for the next half hour, Marino Ibiki could observe a strange picture. 2 genins, or rather, a scion of the famous Uchi clan, and the daughter of Hokage, who is not unknown for her worthlessness, at first, without conspiring at the same time, closed their eyes for a minute, after which they were all red and breathing heavily, as if they were not sitting on the exam, but ran a marathon at least, with a satisfied smile on their lips, literally blurred on the desk. They sat in silence for the next few minutes, except for the blonde's dreamy sighs, and then everything was repeated again. To be honest, Marino was even ashamed to look at them, as if he was spying on something personal. Even though he couldn't figure out what exactly he thought it was. But nevertheless, he breathed a sigh of relief when the signal sounded, and it was time to proceed to the 10th question. So, I think it's time to start the 10th question. Before we get started, I have to ask, are you sure that everyone from your team will answer this question? Because if one of them does not answer, the points of your entire team will be reduced to 0. In other words, you will simply be expelled. So what's the catch? I am sure that everyone will want to answer the question. A self-confident question rang out from the village of Sound. And the catch is that, promising Marino stretched out, releasing a little of his ki. Choosing this question, and making a mistake, at the same time adding a little more of his ki, and looking strangely at our couple with Sasuke, he threateningly finished, "You will lose the privilege of becoming Chunins forever, and why does he look at us so strangely all the time?" Well, we don't react to his ki, so what? Well, I could not restrain myself, and now, burying myself in the desk, I laugh quietly. It's not a crime, is it? Is that right? From my reflections, Sasuke began to giggle already. Which puzzled the other genins. And it caused a considerable shock to friends. Well, except Sakura. She's used to it. Finally, Ibiki, who apparently got tired of this farce, broke down, "That's enough." The man growled angrily, while slamming his palm on the table, and silence immediately fell in the audience. Seeing this, he calmed down a little, and quieter, finished, "It's time to start. Those who have decided not to answer the 10th question, please raise your hand." As expected, after my antics with Sasuke, we slightly diffused the oppressive atmosphere that had prevailed in the classroom before, and even managed to cheer up many genins. And as a result, only 2 teams left the room. There seems to be no reason to delay any longer. Having examined the audience with a cold, tenacious gaze, Marino announced, "You, all passed." Having once again congratulated all genins on passing the first stage, he, as in the past, began to lecture us about information extraction, finally not forgetting to show us his head. When he tried to say something else, the window broke and the examiner of the second stage, Anko Mitarashi, effectively appeared in the audience. Without making a fuss, she quickly introduced herself before barking, "Why are you sitting down? Hurry up for the next exam. Everyone follow me." And only then did she pay attention to the number of genins. 78? Did you admit 26 teams to the exam? Turning indignantly to Marino, she asked. "Very well, at the next stage, I will cut them in half." Anko happily announced her decision. And listening to the indignation of the class, she added, "It excites me. In general, I'm waiting for you in half an hour, at the 44th training ground. Ask your Jonins for details." Time has passed, and disappeared as it appeared, through the window. Yes, even we, who were ready for the second stage, were shocked. What can we say about the others? What are we sitting for? It's time to go. Data Bayo, I said optimistically, for the whole class. And under the fucking glances of the others, Sasuke and I, using his kamui, moved straight to the landfill. Naturally, he will take Sakura with him. The forest is waiting for death. Data Bayo, we appeared near the 44th polygon, even faster than the examiner. A high grid, with a bunch of warning signs, enclosed what the common people call the forest of death. If you believe the story, then this forest was grown by the first Hokage Hashirama Senju himself. Why and why he did it, no one knows. Maybe he decided to indulge in his old age. Or what kind of animals did you breed? It's not clear. I remember in the past, when my husband and I were in the ANBU, we often looked here to train, well, or we were simply exiled here. And then, our training often ended in destruction, and so we are happy in Konoha is safe. In general, over time it became our favorite training ground, where literally every bug knew us by sight. So now I wasn't worried at all about the second stage of the exam. For us, it will be an easy walk, through places familiar from the past world, no more. The arrival of the examiner brought me out of nostalgic thoughts. Anko appeared in the middle of the clearing with several jonins. Apparently, observers. She looked at our team strangely, but she didn't say anything. In about 10 minutes, the rest of the genins also came up. Anko immediately took the newcomers into circulation, deciding to scare them with her stories. On another fiction about the fact that there are ghosts in the forest, I just couldn't stand it and didn't laugh culturally. Come on, haha, stop scaring us, I managed to say through my own laughter. I've never heard more nonsense in my life. You look. How brave we are. Anko cooed and threw a kunai at me. I didn't move, but Sasuke, who had been standing on the sidelines before, instantly moved to me, and catching a kunai flying at me, sent him straight into Anko's unexpected attack. Barely dodging an unexpected attack, she already looked more seriously at our couple with Sasuke, and after calculating something, she said, "Good reaction. Kakashi's team, right? But do not relax, there are more terrible things waiting for you in the forest than the harmless kunai. How bent. Kunai and harmless. Still, I would call the explosive seal so, yeah, this lady doesn't change at all." As it was with a bang, so it remained, and as if following my thoughts, Sasuke snorted. P.F. His look said, I found someone to scare. And don't tell Sasuke, and don't tell him. After throwing a couple more strange glances at Sasuke and me, Anko finally started the exam itself. The essence is simple. To pass the exam, you will need to collect 2 scrolls of heaven and earth, and bring them to the tower, which was located in the very center of the forest. At the same time, to walk, so to speak, in full force, otherwise the whole team will be disqualified. After listening to the rules, and having given the completed forms with a waiver of claims in case of death, we received in return a scroll of heaven, headed to the gate allocated to us. Well, the second stage of Chunin Shuriken has begun. Having crossed the threshold of the gate, I did not hesitate, picked up Sakura under my arms, and moved her to one of the caves we know. There we outlined our plan in detail. In general, Sakura, you are still sitting here with our scroll. You can't find this cave just like that, but Naru, it's better to put up a barrier. Nodding in agreement to my husband's words, I immediately hurried to fulfill his request. Approaching the walls of the cave, I printed out one of the scrolls stored in the wristbands. Attaching the scroll to the wall, I put a little of my chakra there, and folding several seals with one hand, activated the Fuin barrier. At the same moment, hundreds of inscriptions flashed across the walls and ceiling, forming a kind of dome, which gave off a golden glow. However, this was the only disadvantage of this barrier. And basically, he protected from wiretapping, hid the chakra, and many other such trifles. If you remember, it was with such a barrier that Sasuke and I liked to have fun on the roof of the residence. And what? You see them, but they don't see you. Simple and ingenious. While I was floating in my memories, the barrier finally formed. Done. Right there, I reported on the work done. I must say that while I was doing all this, Sakura couldn't tear her admiring gaze away. Okay. Now we. After thinking for a few seconds, he nodded decisively at something. Naru, enter the hermit mode. I need to know the exact location of the commands. The coordinates of the nearest ones. Tell me right away. I will check if they have the scroll we need. I think you don't mind? A questioning look of black eyes met my dissatisfied eyes. As if I don't know what he's up to. I decided to go after the scroll alone while I figure out the others. Against. I replied firmly that, well, honey, apparently having read all my previous thoughts in my eyes, he just sighed heavily. But having made a plaintive little pug, he decided to go to the end. Well, do you want me to feed you ramen for a week later? No. That bastard. He knows what to put pressure on, and if so, having reduced the distance between us, he bit into the lips with a passionate kiss. 2 weeks. Fiend. I finally gave up. He just smiled contentedly at my words. But, there's nothing to do once promised. Sighing heavily, I went to the wall of the cave, and having opened my futon, I began to meditate. It is necessary to gain more natural energy. I think it would not be superfluous to say that Sakura has been looking at this performance with interest for the entire time of our conversation. And now I was enthusiastically waiting for what would happen next, and I must say, my hermit regime did not disappoint her. She especially liked the orange shadows, as she later secretly confessed. Sasuke, the nearest squad is 2 kilometers away from us. Judging by the chakra, this is a rain ninja. Checked it, got it. Activating the eternal Mangekyo, he immediately moved straight to the ninja with the help of Kamui. A few seconds of chakra vibrations, and a minute later Sasuke appears in the cave, with a scroll of earth in his hands. Lucky. I got the right one right away. With some regret in his voice, Sasuke said, well, yes. He was eager for a battle, and it turned out he didn't even strain. Well, nothing, I know how to please him. Just this in private. In the evening. And now, then let's go? I asked with some doubt. After all, if we appeared in the tower now, it would cause unnecessary excitement. And in other respects, why not? Apparently my husband was thinking about the same thing. But he, like me, didn't care. Therefore, quickly deciding, he said, come on. A minute later, there was no one in the cave. Meanwhile, in the Hokage's office. Hokage-sama, one of the jonins literally flies into the office. Is something wrong? A young man in a white raincoat and a triangular Kage hat with the symbol of the land of fire answers. Yes, it was Minato Namikaze, also known as Konoha's Yellow Lightning and concurrently the 4th Hokage of Leaf Village. Seeing that the ninja was excited about something, he said soothingly, calm down. Catch your breath. Like that, when the unexpected guest more or less came to his senses, he continued, and now, tell me, Hokage-sama, the first team has reached the tower. They set a new record for passing the forest of death. Jonin reported briefly for how much? Minato asked, intrigued. 10 minutes from the start of the second stage. It's just incredible. He said admiringly to, who? Minato said, shocked. Mentally figuring out who it could be. Although deep down, he already knew the answer to Team 7, from Konoha. And he was not mistaken, free. After waiting for Jonin to come out of the office, he thoughtfully looked out the window and whispered, Kakashi's team means Naruto, no matter what he says, but his daughter has changed a lot during this time. Grew up, found a real family. And he only hoped that no matter what, she would be happy to. We need to drink to this. We spent the next 3 days in the tower. While waiting for the rest of the teams, the time flew by unnoticed. Especially for Sasuke and me. After an hour, a team from Suna, led by Gaara, came to the tower. And then it became much more fun to wait, and all why? Yes, because I came up with a game for us, codenamed Bring Gaara to Emotions. Which is what we have been doing successfully for the last 3 days. It all started with the appearance of Gaara in the tower. As soon as they entered, I bumped into the red-haired man with congratulations. And since I didn't want to hurt him, the sand protection didn't work on me either. It was worth seeing his face when I gave him a friendly slap on the shoulder. And I'll remember the fucking faces of Kankuro and Temari for a long time. But this is just the beginning. Furthermore, in the evening, as promised, I decided to have a little fun with Sasuke. I didn't set up a sound barrier, and since Gaara hardly sleeps, I was able to hear a lot. And when he left the room, to drink water, then to see us. Half naked. On the ceiling. Yes, we have chosen the ceiling, then we had the honor to witness Gaara's embarrassment. And I'll tell you, it's still a sight. The face is red, almost merged with the hair, the eyes are dilated, the mouth is open in surprise. And now, as soon as he saw us, he began to blush incredibly, under the uncomprehending glances of the others. That's how these days flew by. In fun and jokes for us. And for the most part in shock, for the rest. But time has passed, and another stage should take place today. Qualifying fights. All genins were gathered at the training ground of the tower. In total, the same teams arrived as in the past. And here I am, waiting for the next test to be announced. Finally Anko spoke first. Listen carefully. Now Hokage-sama will tell you about the third stage. Turning to my father, she bowed respectfully before saying, Hokage-sama, do the honor. Okay. But before proceeding to explanations, it is worth saying, the fourth began his narration unhurriedly. I didn't listen further, because he will now talk about the struggle between countries, which is the true essence of the exam, about the lords and all those invited to watch the final, and so on. In general, all that I have known for a long time. Therefore, I resolutely ignored Minato's entire tirade. I woke up only when the judge of the second stage Gecko Hayate appeared. Nice to meet you. I want to say. He cleared his throat before continuing, that all of you have to go through the qualifying fights first. Before you are admitted to the third stage of the exam. Well, I already knew that. But, the rest went into indignation. However, this did not lead to anything. And as in the past, we started qualifying fights. The first couple called Shikamaru with some girl from the sound. As expected, using his strategy, he easily won. The second pair was called by Temari and Tenten. Well, their fight was more like beating a baby. And despite the resistance of the latter, the outcome of the battle was obvious. Temari won, but the third one was called by my husband. To be honest, I was a little tense, and no, not because of Sasuke, I just felt sorry for that guy from the grass. Especially when my husband, thanks to an illusion, caused him to have a tantrum. It was cruel. But nevertheless, I sincerely congratulated Sasuke on his victory. So she just took and kissed Sasuke in front of everyone. And not that he would mind, the owner. Then there was a fight between Gaara and Lee. Honestly, even though I've seen this fight in the past, I still watched it with great pleasure. Even the usual taijutsu performed by Lee looked quite impressive. But when I felt the bloodthirsty chakra of Shikaku, I had to intervene. Imperceptibly true, but I was able to suppress his chakra with my own. And as a result, Lee, though with fractures, is not fatal. Even his ninja career will not interfere with anything. While Lee was being loaded onto the gurney, I met Gaara's grateful gaze. It was unexpected, after all, he shouldn't have felt it. But nevertheless, I nodded in response. Then a duel took place between Sakura and Ino. There was no girly showdown this time, because they had nothing to share. Everyone has long understood that Sasuke is mine. And therefore, without blaming, they just kicked each other's asses. Bottom line, after another blow, with the help of the med chakra, Ino disconnected, having previously managed to hook the so exhausted Sakura. It's a draw again. Well, when am I already? Data Bayo. I complained softly to Sasuke, literally jumping up and down with impatience. At this childish behavior of his wife, Sasuke only smiled gently before taking me in his arms. If you blush too, I won't hold back. And I don't care about the audience, I'll take you right here. Sweet, softly purred in my ear, this pervert. Come on. Unexpectedly, even for myself, I agreed. And I realized that I shouldn't have done it. In the next second, Sasuke growled and picked me up under the ass, put me on the railing standing next to me. Back to the arena. Before I even had time to breathe, he ignored the crowd staring at us and passionately kissed me on the lips. Quickly recovering, I responded no less passionately, pulling him closer to me, and burying my hands in such soft hair of my husband that I don't know how it would have ended if Sensei's voice hadn't sounded in the deafening silence. Ahem, ahem. Kakashi cleared his throat to get attention. But not seeing any reaction, he added louder, Naruto, now is your fight. The word fight had a sobering effect on me. Reluctantly pulling away, I looked first at the fucking crowd, and only then paid attention to the scoreboard. In really bright yellow letters all over the wall, it was written, Naruto Uchiha vs Kiba Inuzuka. Well, I didn't cheat. But before you leave, a kiss for good luck. Looking slyly at my husband, I asked. Needless to say, he fulfilled my request with pleasure. Yeah, that was the last straw. I bet I even heard someone faint. Smiling with satisfaction, I jumped into the arena with all the grace available to me. Well, what are we sitting for? Who are we waiting for? I'm ready, let's start. Data Bayo. Only after my shout, everyone more or less came to their senses. And it started spinning. Kiba, all red, came down to me with Akamaru's tail wagging merrily. That's who really liked the sight. The dog, at the same moment, Gecko gave the go-ahead to start the fight. Let's get started. As soon as the last letter sounded, I immediately took off, and using shadow cloning tried to disorient the enemy. After all, yesterday Sasuke and I agreed not to use the Sage mode. Let's surprise everyone at the finals, therefore, I will try to do with improvised techniques. As I thought, my clones could not deceive the famous Inuzuka's nose. And Kiba, among hundreds of clones, quickly found my original. That's what I needed. As soon as he approached, using his double fang technique, my Rasengan immediately flew into him. And as a result, my unconditional victory. In complete silence, and under the shocked gaze of Minato, did you not expect to see your technique? With my head held high, I jumped straight into my husband's open arms. The prolonged silence was broken, oddly enough, by Hayate. Clearing his throat, he said, Ahem, well, let's continue. After all the fights, it's time to draw lots. And what do you think? Who has found adventures on their 5th point again? That's right, I am. Should have pulled Sasuke's name. But never mind, we'll give them an unforgettable show. That's how the second stage of the exam passed for me. The final is waiting for us ahead, but for now, Sasuke, you have 2 weeks of ramen. A month has passed since the second stage. And today, the final awaits us. Sasuke and I have been preparing since the morning, because if you believe Kurama's words, this day will be our last in this world. Last night, we managed to say goodbye to Kakashi-sensei and the brothers. To be honest, I didn't even think that I could ever find such a family. There were tears of farewell, especially Menma tried. I will always remember his words. I am glad that, though not for a long time, I have such a sister. Remember me, Amato, and me, I'll never forget you. Also, at parting, he gave me a keepsake. A small pendant of the sun, with our common photo with the brothers, inside. Now it is safely stored in one of the subconscious seals, and will warm with its memories in our home world. In general, the evening was spent in a cozy family atmosphere. A quiet whisper in my ear brought me out of my memories that we need to go out, sunshine. The final is about to begin. Only now I noticed that while I was soaring in my memories, I managed to gather myself that I was wearing a white kimono with the sun embroidered on the back and golden flame patterns on the long sleeves. A thin waist was emphasized by a gold belt, and a small neckline revealed a view of sharp collarbones. On his feet, he was wearing gold gaiters to the middle of the thigh, and white short boots without lacing. I didn't bother with my hair, and built 2 high ponytails that reached my knee. Sasuke was dressed about the same. White men's yukata, with a month on the back, and purple flames on the sleeves. A dark purple belt was tied around his waist, to which Sasuke attached a scabbard with a katana. purple knee-length bandages and white shinobi sandals went to the bottom. In general, we looked quite solemn. After all, today is such a day, and, as the fox explained to us, when we get back, these bodies will simply die. After all, the real owners of these bodies have long since died, and only we still kept the bodies afloat. Okay, enough pessimistic thoughts. It's time to move out. The final is not waiting. Together with Sasuke, we appeared right in the middle of the arena. The other participants had already arrived, and as it turned out, they were waiting only for us. Looking at the stands, I noticed the brothers waving cheerfully at us. Even Itachi was smiling at all 32 now, which, to be honest, caused almost more shock than our appearance. While I was looking around, we managed to announce the first duel, Shikamaru versus Temari. Well, what can I say, the outcome of the battle was obvious. Shikamaru once again showed his laziness, and despite the ingenious strategy, he just gave up in the end. Nara is always such a Nara. The next fight was to be between Kankuro and Aburame. But as in the past, Kankuro refused to fight, which means that there will be an attack on Konoha. But who is it this time? After all, if you believe the memories of this world, Orochimaru became a hermit the same as Jiraiya. And it makes no sense to attack Konoha this time. Then who, Naru, now is our exit? While I was doing my inner thinking, it was my turn with Sasuke. The performance begins. A minute later we appeared in the arena. Genma Shiranui, the judge of the third stage, looked at us in turn before saying, "If you are ready, let's start." The whole stadium held its breath. I noticed out of the corner of my eye Fugaku, Sasuke's father, who was standing next to Minato, and briefly exchanged glances with each other, throwing interested glances at us. The brothers did not lag behind their fathers, but compared to them, they already knew what to expect. Therefore, they only fidgeted with impatience, waiting for the promised spectacle. Yes, what can I say, brothers? Even the eternally calm Kakashi, now almost rubbed his hands in anticipation. Well, we didn't disappoint them. In the next second, a golden ripple went over me, which, increasing, took the form of a fox. I activated the sage mode, and dressed in a cloak, majestically hovered over the fox's head. Sasuke also did not hesitate, and activated the purple Susanoo swordsman, who was blazing with a dark chakra. Well, what? Shall we stretch out? Sasuke asked me, glittering with gambling eyes. Let the fun begin. I announced loudly, to the whole stadium. As soon as we took a step, a lot of explosions sounded everywhere. It started. Tell me, what went wrong in this world? I'm standing in the middle of a torn-up arena, and together with Sasuke I have the honor to watch another sand attack on Konoha. But this is not the most important thing. Tobi was the leader of all this nonsense. More precisely, Obito Uchiha, who is currently standing without a mask in front of us, and presses a mocking smile. I'll take the nine-tailed one from you. This, Miracle confidently declared to me, my husband is in his repertoire. I even felt sorry for this negligent ninja. Catching Tobi's uncomprehending look, I just shook my head sympathetically. He didn't even know what he signed up for, poor guy. I'm kidding though. I don't feel a bit sorry for him. Guys, what are you doing? Probably just now, he caught our killer. Run Tobi, run. In the next moment, several things happened. Firstly, Sasuke appeared next to me, framing the fox in the Susanoo armor. Seeing this, Tobi finally ran away from the shock. Secondly, the sand ninjas who had been confidently attacking Konoha before chose to escape back to the Suna desert, out of harm's way. And finally, Minato woke up from the shock and remembered that he was like a Kage, and his duty to protect the village, began to act. But I didn't see that anymore, disappearing with Sasuke, following Tobi far beyond Konoha. All I had time to do was take a last look at Menma. Correctly understanding my hint, he only nodded sadly after us, letting us go. I'm going to miss I still had time to think before finally leaving this Konoha behind that we caught up with Obito, only near the border of the well-known Forest of Death. Seeing that he was trapped, Toby began a tactical retreat. "Look, Hawk!" Pointing somewhere behind us, in an attempt to distract our attention. But seeing only our skeptically raised eyebrows, he immediately deflated, and humbly raising his hands, said, "Good. I give up, so it would be right away." My husband muttered somewhere in the back of my head, and using his Tsukuyomi plunged the enemy into an illusion. To my questioning look, he immediately explained, "And what?" Suddenly he would have run away. A lousy excuse for Sasuke. I would say that I wanted to have fun, here, only I can contemplate the picture of a ashamed Sasuke. An amazing sight, Naru. You have no more than 5 minutes left. Quickly tie this Toby and let's go. Oh, and here's Kurama. Just in time. We just had time to follow Kurama's advice and tie Obito, as the world began to blur before our eyes, and the next second a familiar forest appeared before us. There were criminals around as well as then, surprised by our appearance. This gang came to their senses pretty quickly, but they didn't have time to do anything. Without making such a mistake again, we didn't leave them a minute to think before we were done with them forever, and now, Sasuke. I jumped straight at my husband, I knocked him to the ground, hugging me tightly in response. He buried his nose in my hair, and quietly whispered somewhere in the neck, "Finally home, Sasuke." I literally purred. After all, I remembered one of my wishes, even from that world. I want a baby. To say that my statement stunned Sasuke means to say nothing. "Naruto," my husband drawled in confusion, looking straight into my eyes. And then he whispered happily, "Thank you, yes, yes." He knew that in the past I was catastrophically afraid of becoming a mother. But our little trip has radically changed my opinion. How will it not change when I saw my Sasuke literally glowing while playing with baby Inari? Probably it was then that I decided that I would do everything to see Sasuke so happy, but, not only because of this, so what are we waiting for? We need to work on this, I drawled unequivocally, looking at my husband, who just now realized that the process of conception can be very pleasant, A flame literally danced in my husband's eyes. And in the next moment I was shut up with a passionate kiss, and I really want a baby. Right now, I'll work hard on this, 5 times like that. And what? I really missed you a lot. 2 weeks have passed since the appearance in the native world. And today we will finally be able to see our native Konoha. Since the criminal's lair was almost on the border of the land of fire, the return was delayed a little. And, it's not like we're in a hurry, actually. As I said earlier, we had more important things to do. So that's what I'm getting at. Konoha's native gate finally appeared before us. At the post, we were met by the invariable Izumo and Kotetsu, who followed us with strange looks. Well, yes, I can understand them. It's not every day you meet a smiling Uchiha for all 32. Sasuke was generally at the good disposal of the spirit from the very morning. As soon as he heard that I was pregnant, he almost cried with happiness. And now, with a silly smile, he is carrying me in his arms across Konoha. He took me in his arms this morning, and he won't let me go. I feel like I'm still having a hard time with his possessive instincts. By the way, we are heading to the Kage residence, where the 6th one is waiting for us with a report. Here he is, by the way. Kakashi-sensei is sitting in a pile of papers, and looks at the ceiling in resignation. We need to inform him of our presence, otherwise he was so lost in thought that he didn't even notice us. So what if we went in through the window? There was someone to learn from, it won't help. I said loudly, despite sensei's attempts. After receiving his questioning look, I hurried to explain, the ceiling will not help. Stop drilling it with your gaze, Naruto. Sasuke? Oh. I think I'm awake, wee. They came to hand over the mission. Databao. I shouted loudly, and wanted to get off Sasuke's hands, as he stubbornly looked at me and pressed me closer to him. Bei-chen, yeah, only my husband can express all his feelings with one chuckle. In this context, he clearly said, I won't let you. What's the matter with him? Sasuke-sensei clearly noticed the strange behavior. Here's what else I wanted. A little hesitated, I still continued, Kakashi-sensei, from today I'm on a long-term vacation. And this is the reason for Sasuke's stupid smile? I'll never believe it. The sly smile was visible even through the mask. And I gave up. I'm pregnant. Here, in one breath, I blurted out happily. Congratulations. This is good news. So Naru, don't worry now, go rest, and I'll arrange everything. You don't have to worry about your vacation. So, I just needed one more worried dad. They will drive me with their guardianship. By the way, for Dad, Sasuke, what about Kakashi? I mentally asked about my idea. Good. I think there is no better to find. Having received my husband's consent, I interrupted Kakashi, muttering something under his breath, Sensei, you will be our child's godfather. And seeing his confusion, I did not listen to the answer, unquestioningly declared, and it's not up for discussion, and while he was recovering, Sasuke and I hurried out of the office. Home, 10 months have passed. Pregnancy in Jinchuriki lasts longer than in humans. During this time, what just did not happen? Sasuke finally realized that a pregnant Uzumaki would be worse than Madara. Yes, Sasuke, the whole Konoha soon realized it, and it all started around the second month. At first I wanted tomatoes, despite the fact that I couldn't look at ramen properly. Bad Uchiha. I know it's all because of them, so, then I started to vomit from the smells. And the Yamanaka flower shop clearly got it then the tantrum started from scratch. It's already got Kakashi-sensei with his eternal mask. By the way, at the time of one of my tantrums, he could not stand my numerous requests to show his face, and still tore off his mask. Only this will be our secret with him, here, that's how I spent my pregnant days. Sasuke got especially, of course, as the father of the child. But, he was doing great. I even took a vacation for the whole time of my pregnancy. Do you want a mountain flower in the cold? Yes, please. Do you want in the heat, rain and lightning? One technique, and a personal thunderstorm, at your disposal. Do you want herring with ice cream at 3 in the morning? I'll run away now, you just wait. In general, Sasuke was really a good husband, and fulfilled my whims with such joy that I was simply amazed. Well, what can I say? A real Uchiha. After all, even in a normal state, they are ready to get a star from the sky to their loved ones, and when the chosen one is carrying a child, so in general, but the torment is already over, and the other day, as Kurama said, the birth should take place. And now I think I'll go buy myself some ramen. And why not? In the last few days, I was terribly drawn to him. And it's not surprising, if you believe Kurama's words, then I will have twins. Only Sasuke doesn't know yet, it's a secret. Hello old man. I need 2 servings of my favorite. I greeted Tuchi. This old man cooked the most delicious ramen for the whole Konoha. Hi, Naruto. Glad to see you. How's the baby? While he was talking, he also managed to cook. That's what I understand, a professional. Great. It couldn't be better. As soon as I managed to take the chopsticks, my stomach immediately shot with pain. What is it? Databao. Hush Naru, hush, the fox intervened, not letting me panic. he continued as calmly as possible, "It's okay, you're just giving birth." Honestly, it would be better if he didn't say the latter. All the calmness is gone, I'm giving birth. My hysterical scream was probably heard by the whole Konoha. It's not surprising that Sasuke immediately appeared next to me to, "Hush, honey, be patient, now I'll move us straight to the hospital." While he was talking, he managed to take me in his arms. The next thing I saw was the walls of the hospital, and my husband's excited cry, "Call Tsunade." Quickly, Naruto seems to be giving birth. If it wasn't for the intense pain, would have enjoyed the sight of Sasuke panicking, but now I was not up to it at all. It got dark in my eyes, and it was as if I heard Granny Tsunade's voice through a veil, "Put her on the couch." Like that, something soft appeared under my head, and the smell of medicines hit my nose. "Now get out the door. And don't mind. I'll call you when it's over." There was a sound of scuffling, and a fallen body. Apparently Tsunade did not stand on ceremony and just knocked out Sasuke. The door closed, and only then Senju turned to me, "She will worry less, otherwise I still didn't have enough destruction in the hospital. I hope you don't mind?" And without waiting for my answer, she continued, "And now you, calm down, everything will be fine." I hope. That's very optimistic. Just a stone from the soul. But contrary to the words, the birth was very successful, although later it will be necessary to compensate for the damage to the hospital. After all, Sasuke came to himself before the birth was over and, as Tsunade said, he was very nervous, so much so that the wall would have to be restored. But that's nothing, because the result of all the torment was 2 small bundles in my arms. "Well, Dad. Congratulations, you have twins," joyfully informed Tsunade to Sasuke, who was barely standing on his feet. Although not. After her words, he still fainted. An identical knock was heard from the other side. As it turned out, Kakashi also came to congratulate us, but after such news he also fainted. To such a reaction, Tsunade only snorted dismissively, "Men, and don't say grandma, and don't say." A few minutes later, when Sasuke came to his senses, Tsunade decided to finally finish him off. "Oh, how could I forget? You have 2 boys. Congratulations again." Needless to say, he lost consciousness again. That's how our little adventure ended. And I finally have my own big family. The morning of the next day for the Uchi family began with a delicious smell of coffee and fresh pastries. This is the mother of the Naruto family. She has been conjuring in the kitchen since the morning. As always, the first head of the Uchiha Sasuke family came to the kitchen for delicious smells. After looking around the room, he first of all approached his beloved wife, who, without noticing anything, was cooking something on the stove. "Good morning, sunshine." Hugging the girl from behind, he put his hands on her barely protruding stomach, after all, for the 3rd month, and kissed his wife on the cheek, asked, "How do you feel? How's our baby?" "Good morning, my love." "Well, and the baby is healthy. Kurama says that she will grow up to be a true Uzumaki." The idyll was interrupted by children rushing into the kitchen. Boys about 5 years old in appearance. One took all the features of his father: black hair, the same eyes, pale skin. In general, a true Uchiha. The second one surprisingly went to Namikaze more. That in appearance, yellow sunny hair, blue eyes, and a kind smile. That by nature, serious for his years, though a kind boy, but even now we can say that the character clearly did not go to Naruto. So the names of the boys were chosen accordingly: Itachi. Menma. Quickly sit down to eat. It's your first day at the academy today, I think it won't be good to be late. Come on, Mom. These brats answered in one voice. Oh, and they get bored with them at the academy. One is already bored right now, and he will start running away from lessons no earlier than in a month. the second one will only support him in this. Looking at the guys, she stroked her stomach, thinking about one thing: I hope at least you're a daughter, you'll take after your mother and be able to dilute this society of serious men. But no matter what, Naruto loved her family with all her heart. That's the end of it.